If you work on cut paper projects, there's always a point in time when you realize you may lack the motor skills to create consistency using simply a pair of scissors or a utility knife. On today's Mixed Media Masters, we're going to talk about something that will give you that consistency and make your projects a lot of fun. Hello makers, and thank you so much for joining us in the studio. If this is your first time, welcome. Good to have you here. If you see anything along the way that you really enjoy, please hit that like button. And if you want to hear from us on a regular basis, we're dropping videos every single week. Just hit that subscribe button and we'll let you know when new things are happening. Now, one of the challenges with being any kind of an artist is consistency, right? If I'm trying to draw something and I can't draw it the same way more than once, it runs into some challenges. But when we're working on paper projects, especially any kind of collage paper projects, we want sometimes to have some consistency. And I do find that, as skilled as I might be with a pair of scissors from time to time, it doesn't always allow me to have that level of consistency. But in order to have that, we can turn to technology. We can turn to these great paper punches. So I have these different paper punches. This is for a large circle. I have one for smaller circles and even smaller circles, depending on what my needs are. But in my collection, I've been collecting these for a while. I have a large square that I can use. I have a rectangular punch. I have a triangle for different kinds of things. And you can even get smaller ones for people who are doing scrapbooking. These really came in handy. Here's a sun here. We've got a star. We've got a flower petal, etc. And the thing that's really nice about these, again, depending on the kind of work that you're doing, is it allows you to very quickly work with your materials. For example, if I were to take my flower petal punch here, I'm going to take off the plastic guard so you can better see what's going on here. And if I were to come in here and say, let's just grab a piece of paper here and let's make a few of these. It's an easy enough process just to come in here and pop these out. But what's fun about these now is I have these, and let me share some of the other ones that I've created beforehand, is that now by grabbing different colors of this shape, I can really create something that's kind of, it looks kind of like it's harkening back to the 1960s, kind of the Mod Squad sort of thing. If some of you older folks may know exactly what I'm talking about here. But an opportunity to come in here and use these different elements, right? These different pieces that we can punch out very quickly to create something that's really going to help our artwork stand out. And again, when we're talking about abstract art, it's up to you. What we do is really entirely upon what we're trying to accomplish here. And so if I want to have something that has lots of flower petals in here in different colors, I can create a collage that has these elements in there. So that's a nice thing to be able to do. And by the way, colored paper is a great source of what we're trying to work on here. But you know what? I love to reuse certain things. Let me get these guys out of here for a sec. And for example, old comic books. Sometimes I find it is so much fun to go in and just punch out kind of random colors and shapes depending on what we're doing. And it's a little bit of a different process here, but you can see when we're using old comic book paper, we get a very different look and feel for what we're trying to do here. Now, again, it's going to depend upon the projects that you're working on and what you can do with them. But some really cool things that can happen in the context of just using these simple paper punches to make these uniform shapes. And of course, being able to mix, our flower pattern with our snowflake pattern, with our circles, entirely up to us. And so again, what I want you to think about when you're really exploring your own projects is what is it that you're trying to do consistently that you wouldn't be able to do by hand? I'm not kidding. I'm not going to go in here with a utility knife and cut these things out perfectly every time. That is never going to happen. So being able to turn to something that can do that for me is a big deal. But also what's really cool about working with these, let me come in here and work with my large circle, for example. I can very easily punch out a large circle, and then if I wanted to kind of step down into smaller and smaller increments of this, I guess I'll use a different color. Why the heck not? We'll put a purple next to that one, or a purple blue. So let me pull this one out here, and let's create a circle there. There we go. So we can create some interrelationship between these different colors. We'll grab this guy right here, and we'll pop some red in there. Okay, and I don't know, we have a few more that we could do. How about some green? There we are. Get that guy out of there. some green, and what do we have here at the very bottom? No. I'm going to do some purple. I have a purple color here that will allow us to finish this off. Now, again, this is just an example of what we can do with these different paper punches. But the opportunity to come in here and create kind of a step down, I think I might need to find one that's a slightly different. This one's just barely smaller, but it's not really showing a huge difference between its predecessor here. But the point is that with these simple different cutouts, it allows me to organize them. I can create almost kind of a paper mandala of things. So, I can have kind of, large going to small. It looks like you're almost going into a black hole kind of thing, depending on what I end up doing with these different pieces. Now, by the way, there are some great unusual punches out there as well. Not something that everybody needs, but one of the things I do have in my collection, a skull and crossbones, because I guess you never know. And an opportunity to come in here and say, all right, let's create something, and there it is. And it punches the little eyes out for you and a little nose. But I can drop that into whatever project it seems appropriate in as well. Now, as I mentioned, a lot of times when you're looking in an art supply store, if you look in the scrapbooking tools, you'll find a lot of the paper punches there, or you can also order them online. And I've left links in the description below for you to take a peek at. One of the other tools that I find really very useful is something that scrapbookers use all the time, which is to say, I want to be able to come into something that has currently a sharp corner, and I want to make it less sharp. I want to round it off. So for example, if I'm using this black piece of paper here, I can come in here and I can say, you know what, do I want to have a 4mm corner, a 10mm corner, or a 7mm corner? And I can come into like this and just trim it off. And you can see very quickly what it did to that corner, right? And we can also make it a little bit more intense if that's our objective, and we can see that. So that's really helpful. Again, the kind of things that it'd be harder to do with a pair of scissors and be consistent. So I'm perfectly willing to turn to any of these different punches to make things a lot easier for me. Now, again, there are so many different types of punches out in the market, depending what your needs are. And I have found in the past that, like most things out there, there are some that are easier to use than others, some that are really kind of stiff. I've had a few punches that just, they didn't do what they advertised to do, like punch paper. There is one more thing I do want to share with you. And again, one of the things that's great about the paper punch is that it also allows us to use up any kind of scrap paper we have. Now, invariably, when I'm working on a project, I'm going to end up with all sorts of leftovers. And I try to only throw away those things that really have no future life. Anything that's big enough to work with, I'll try to do something with in the future. For example, I end up with a piece like this for a previous project. And being able to take this and punch different shapes out of it and utilize this piece of paper as opposed to throwing it away is very helpful. And it's also, invariably, it's not always the cost of buying new materials sometimes. It's the availability, going out and saying, hey, I want to try to match this color, this paper that I bought previously. Sometimes it's really hard to find the replacements. You want these to go as far as possible. And one tool I want to share with you, again, just kind of on a minimal standpoint, is your standard just single hole punch. Yeah, the kind of thing you used to use in school to punch holes so you could put things in your loose leaf binder, right? Now, I've looked at a few, and some of them, frankly, will give your wrist a heck of a workout. And this tool by Bostitch, I really, really like because it's super easy to use. And again, you don't think about how complicated it is to punch a hole. But when you come in and punch, thousands of them because you're making inventory for yourself or whatever you're trying to accomplish, it can make a difference. This one is like butter. It is so easy to squeeze and to cut out. So I highly recommend it. I've looked at a few others. I decided to go budget and I got what I paid for. And after you punch out about 25 of these, your wrist is just like locking up and numb. And what's really cool about this is it allows you now to dump these out, and these are art elements, right? Again, like anything else we've been working on, we have colors and a spot of color. We want to just bring something in as a little, maybe a little dab of blue there. I was working on a project not so long ago, and I had a lot of paper left over from a watercolor project that I had been working on. And instead of just throwing it away, I said, you know what, let me punch these colors out. And so there's color on each side. I'll probably have to go and sort them out and flip over anything that's white. But the cool thing about this, again, is if this is an effect that will become real useful for anything that I'm working on, why not do it? Lay down some glue and stick, and you can really create some amazing outcomes with this, right? So we're going to talk more about punches in the future. I have a couple projects that I want to work on with you that allow us to do some very cool things. But just in a general terms, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of anything that will make the task easier, and in this case, more consistent, because I've got mad skills, but that ain't one of them. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Thanks so much for dropping by. I really appreciate the time we spent together, and I'll see you next time.